So what does the media do when faced with a potentially positive, dramatic achievement involving Donald Trump? You find a smaller, more embarrassing story and play it up big. Call it the split screen effect.
For what's been a split screen kind of morning for him.
What's so interesting about today is the juxtaposition. It's literally and figuratively the split screen.
You have to say this is a classic Trump-era split screen story.
What lemmings? The split screen phenomenon, overshadowing what's important to you with something important to the media. That means the slow, awkward diplomatic process in Hanoi that's meant to enhance the survival of our country must now compete with a gossipy spectacle filled with old news. And guess who wins? The spectacle. That's what the hearing was for. The media knows every time Trump goes overseas, he wins. So maybe they can distract you with this gratuitous drama. And if there's good news from Hanoi, it's just to obscure the hearings.
He may try to distract, or he may make a bad decision with Kim Jong-un.
In any way induces him to overreach, to basically hope that he can pull something off in Hanoi that will obscure the other story.
Does the president feel the need to come up with something spectacular out of this meeting, something that he can tout as a historic agreement in order to overshadow what we're going to hear on Capitol Hill today?
Sorry, isn't it more likely the reverse, that the hearings are meant to undermine the summit? Yes, I know. Even we took all of it, suckers. Anyway, I've never seen so many people rooting for failure. And Tom Brady wasn't even playing. But it might backfire. By placing these two stories side by side, it may create the reverse of what the press wants. What's meant to undermine that damn Trump actually damns them. I mean, they're comparing a dramatic diplomatic effort that might end a 70-year war with a partisan tantrum. Or let's put the contrast this way. We could put an end to those false missile alerts that struck horror in Hawaii, but instead let's focus on slimeball theater, which is protein powder for the consensus media. It's like comparing a cure for disease with an old Jackass rerun, something historical with something hysterical. Never has something so big been compared to something so small. Well, maybe not, but it's close. All right, Juan, for dinner, each major player, Trump or Kim Jong-un, gets to invite two guests. Trump invited Pompeo and that other guy. I can't remember. Who?
Mulvaney.
Yes, but Juan, I think this was a slight to Dennis Rodman.
Is that right?
Yes.
He should have been there.
No, he should have been there.
He could have dunked on him.
Yes.
Yeah. No, in fact, I think Dennis Rodman, we all have to bite our tongues because Dennis Rodman, turns out, you know, he was an important player in that historic. You go back and building relationships. I will say this. When I hear Chairman Cummings say that what happened on Capitol Hill today was important because history will record whether or not we, at this moment, stood tall in terms of defending democracy, I don't think it's a small story. And I don't think that just because these two guys had dinner, they haven't even started their hearings yet, that we should ignore what's going on here in this country that is of such magnitude and impacts the presidency of the United States. So that's the way I feel about it. By the way, I don't know what the president has done overseas that amounts to so many wins. I know the first time he met with this guy, we didn't get much out of it.
We've gotten a lot of things whenever he goes overseas, Morgan, and he is pretty good with dignitaries. I think this is a bigger story than this story that we're covering.
Yeah, some people have the Super Bowl. I have NOCO Summit Week, which makes me really excited. You know, I think the major thing, and I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, is the patience required in diplomacy. I don't think maybe we will have a big win coming out of this, but I actually can see what's more likely is another summit maybe at the end of the year or in 2020, because you have to understand from the perspective of the North Koreans, they are still at war with us. We've been through many other wars since then. We don't even, I think the average American doesn't really think about North Korea. But the average North Korean in leadership thinks that the Americans are out to get them and are out to invade their country. So that's the mindset of the person that's at the other side of the table. So I think there's two things to look for as they negotiate over the evening, our time, is there a peace deal, which would end, you know, officially in the 70-year war? And what happens with sanctions? The president has said that he's going to keep these economic sanctions on North Korea until there is a consensus on what denuclearization denuclearization means. But is there some sort of leniency on the sanctions so that the North and the South can do more economic partnerships, more business deals together? The South Koreans want that. So those are the two things that I'm looking for that could come potentially out of the summit tomorrow.
Dana, what are your thoughts? I noticed that you dressed in unison with Kim Jong-un.
Oh, yes. I took my cues.
Yes.
I'm trying to help get the story out there. I would say this. I think that the timing of all of this is going to work out in President Trump's favor from a media perspective, and this is why. This Michael Cohen hearing was going to happen before Michael Cohen has to go to jail, and that is soon, like in a couple weeks. So this hearing was going to happen anyway. Today was just like the setup day and the dinner. There's not a lot of news. This hearing now is in the books. Tomorrow, the entire day is dominated by whatever happens starting in a couple of hours with President Trump and Kim Jong-un. And history is a long arc.
It is.
And so no one's going to care about a 24-hour news cycle in the long run of history. So I think leadership is just doing the right thing that you think is the best for the country and then explaining it as best you can and letting the chips fall where they may.
Jesse, I'd like to think if this were President Obama, I'd be rooting for him. Isn't it weird?
You would not.
No. You would not. You would not. But you know what I mean? But it's like, I do sense there's a lot of people rooting against world peace.
Yeah, I think they're more threatened by Trump than they are of Kim.
Yeah.
They seem comfortable in Kim's crosshairs. I do think for the media to say, oh, man, these split screens, they're the ones that make the split screens. Literally. It's their job to do that. And they orchestrated the split screen by having Lanny bring Cohen on the same day as the summit. And
but
then
they made a mistake. They should have done it tomorrow.
Well,
they screwed up.
They're not as smart as you are.
Thank you.
And then they sit there and they ponder, is Trump going to do something at the summit to overshadow the split screen that we created to overshadow his summit? It's so stupid. And to think that Lanny is working pro bono. Come on. He's still on the payroll of either the Clintons or the Democrats. Lanny does nothing for free. It's clear the Democrats are using Cohen as a weapon to impeach him, and these prosecutors in the Southern District are going after him in order to burnish their credentials and help propel their political careers.
And by the way, if nothing happens, something still happened because you can always return to whatever kind of Cold War you want. So if you decide that you never want to do this, then you're just happy to always be at the mercy of somebody's missiles. So I think this is what the steps that's already been made is pretty good.
Yeah, well, I think there's no question of that. And even people who have been skeptical, like in the national security community, I feel like they have even been like, okay, well, I'll be a skeptical optimist.
Yes.
Right.
That's the, that's the best kind of skepticist. No, the optimal skeptimist.
Yeah.
Or the pessimistic optimist.
Skeptical optimist?
Skeptical optimist?
Oh, you too.
Oh, gee whiz. All right.